Am I correct in understanding that you exploded some sort of naval vessel a couple weeks ago?
I didn't do it, but I saw it happen.
And this was all legal?
Yeah, it was all legal. I was in a helicopter above a frigate as it exploded.
You know that normally it would be illegal to explode a frigate.
Yeah, it was a frigate. It was friggin' frigate blowing up. It was amazing. It was great. This was an operation called RIMPAC, Rim of the Pacific. All these nations around the Pacific Ocean get together and they do like the largest naval exercise in the world.
Sure. Yeah, this is where you and one other person work together for years to synchronize your brains so you can operate giant robots to fight deep sea monsters that travel from another dimension. I've seen it.
Yeah.
The Pac Rim, Operation Pac Rim, Pacific Rim.
I haven't seen that movie. It sounds amazing.
That's what happens. It's amazing. You need to watch it.
It does sound really good. No, it's bigger and more complicated than that, I would say. Maybe not, but
more
I don't know.
Complicated than a giant robot operated by two people that fights interdimensional monsters? Tell me about it.
That's actually almost exactly what it is, only there's more people and more robots because it is interdimensional monsters.
What?
I know, I'm being serious, 100% serious.
I'm trying to be inside your brain right now, but the link is weak. How do you mean?
Okay, so there's this thing so I'm making a video on Smarter Every Day. They let me film my last operation that I did as a civilian tester, right? There's this thing called multi-domain battle. It's the future of war. And, dude, this gets complicated. In battle, there are three things that a fighting element can do. Move, shoot, communicate. With me?
Yeah, just like the little green army guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Only it's way more complicated than that because there are multiple domains. For example, you can move, shoot, and communicate on the land. You can move, shoot, communicate in the sea. You can do it in air. You can do it in space. You can do it in cyber. You starting to understand?
Yeah. Okay, I'm tracking.
Okay, so when you said interdimensional monsters, we kind of funny, haha, laughed. But seriously, war is changing. It's getting to the point where people can move, shoot, communicate in any one of those domains and affect the battlefield in a different domain.
What?
And they do that. Yeah, exactly. So, we think traditionally of Army, Navy, Air Force. Air Force having jurisdiction over space, but it's far more complicated than that. Now, what America is doing is America is making advancements towards multi-domain operations, meaning you as a land forces commander can call upon an asset that's in space or even in the sea to affect the battle that you're fighting at your location at that given point in time.
Okay, first, a second ago was me marveling at your ability to somehow take my Pacific Rim reference and turn it into a thing that really, really made sense. So I'm tipping my hat. You can't see that, but I am.
Okay.
2, yeah, it hasn't been that long even that the ground forces have had the opportunity to engage air support for that to even be an option. The dimensions of war have changed so much in the last 150 years. And you go back even another 50 years and you add to that railroad transportation and just how that changes logistics. But I hadn't thought about the cyber side of that. How does that apply?
Let me make something up. So let's assume that we're fighting a war, okay? You're America and I am the glorious nation of my Uncle Stan, right?
I see what you did.
Yeah. And
That's
so
safe. Nobody has to feel bad.
Yeah, there was by the way, there used to be an online game. It was called Nation States, and you could make your own nation and you could determine what kind of geopolitical dictator you would be, or, all these different things. You could figure out if you were a republic or whatever. And my nation was called My Uncle Stan. It was
My Uncle Stan?
Yeah.
You have to pronounce it right. That rolls really nice. I'm stealing that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's working.
So let's assume that we're engaged in battle and you decide that you're just going to chill out and be land of the free, home of the brave kind of stuff. Okay. And I'm like, you know what? This little piece of America down here, I kind of want that. So I'm just going to take it because I am the dictator of the glorious land of my Uncle Stan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just like sending people over there to just camp out and just hang out and like, just chill out with people. And then I'm going to start a misinformation campaign on the internet, and I'm going to try to get people to realize that all the big things that are happening by your government are affecting the people in that local area in a negative way. So I'm going to start to try to shift the sentiment towards my causes. So those would be cyber plays that affect the human element of the game and start to maybe get people to be more sympathetic for my causes, right?
Like RT.com.
Yes, exactly. Well, is it actually RussiaToday.com? Is that what it is?
I think so, yeah. Or Al Jazeera, when they made a big push a few years ago. I mean, it kind of fizzled in the U.S., but they made a big push.
Yeah.
Again, not that I'm saying that everybody behind Al Jazeera or RT are evil or infiltrators, but surely the nice way to frame that was, you guys are getting all of your news from your local perspective. Here's a perspective from people outside your bubble. That would be the nice way to frame it.
No, I disagree.
I'm trying to be... Okay, go ahead.
And the reason I would disagree is because you're assuming that they're not a false flag, right? And because the way this game is played, and by game I mean war, actual war, the way war is done now is people will try to provide misinformation to a large populace, and they may not even know that that's happening.
The large populace may not.
Right.
Or the misinformation spreaders may not. What are you saying?
You want to know what's crazy, dude?
Tell me.
So I went back and rewatched my interview with Obama. An email got sent and somebody was like, hey, Destin would like to come to this thing. He's cool. Look, here's an interview you did with Obama. I was like, I wonder what link they sent this person to try to convince him that I was a credible source. And it was the full-blown interview with Obama, unedited. Mm-hmm. I was like, I haven't watched that in a really long time. I'm going to go watch that. I went and watched it when I asked the question about political polarization. You know what he said? He said something along the lines of, there's a whole host of reasons why people are divided. And I was like, yeah, that's right. We've got things going on. And he said, there are even external influences that have interest in dividing us.
He did.
He said that.
Did he reference Fox News and the New York Times?
He did. But
yeah. Oh, no, I know what you're referencing. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to triangulate on the part of the interview because I've watched that a few times myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him bringing that up.
Yeah, he knew. And he was trying to tell me something, and I didn't get it. And I was just like, oh, yeah, so interesting. You gave a speech once. That's cool. Anyway, let's talk about rockets.
Yeah, and you've chosen not to talk about the stuff that got said off camera.
Yeah.
But
That's
stuff makes a lot more sense contextually. If he knew about what you're talking about, cyber war, false flags, whatever, then those remarks that he made to you on the way out the door make a lot more sense too.
They do. And it's difficult. Everybody's in a hard spot because you've got this cyber element of warfare and that's affecting humans, right? And so anyway, my point is, circling all the way back, that was interesting. I get to participate in a specific moment of history. Someone told me something I didn't understand because they had more information than I did, and they told me in a very public way. Fascinating, dude. I mean, like, fascinating. Talk about 4D chess. Anyway,
no kidding.
Multi-domain operations. It's real. It's the way it goes in the future. That's the way war is going to go down. So one thing I got to do in this exercise that I participated in out in Hawaii is we engaged a naval vessel from a land element while targeting it from assets that were in the air or possibly space. I don't know exactly where the coordinates came from. All I know is I was in a helicopter over the top of this thing when it was hit with a missile from many, many, many miles away from the land.
What did that look like?
It was difficult because I had a handheld high-speed camera and I was trying to get the shot. I was 10,000 feet up, and so I was trying to hold the camera steady on a very shaky helicopter. It was difficult. It was very, very difficult. And on top of that, I didn't have the hardware I needed. And so the lady that was there on the helicopter with me, there were several of us on the helicopter, but Erica in particular, she was one of the crew chiefs in the back. And so I said, Erica, I don't have what I need. I'm going to need you to hold this screen and help me do this. She's like, Roger, let's do it. And so she did great, and we were able to get the shot. It's hard because you're in a helicopter shaking violently, trying to look through a soda straw at something over is just about 2 miles away.
Yeah.
But no, that was if it was straight down. So it was at an angle. So it was, let me do some math real quick. 1.414 times 10. It was 14,000 feet away. So this thing was 2.5 miles away. And it was really hard, but got the shot. You know, it's a weird thing to be like, Lord help me film this missile striking this boat, but I know that I have one shot at this and I might miss it. Lord, can you help me with this? That was a weird prayer.
I have to admit, that's not one I've ever uttered.
I got it. Yeah, I got the shot, so I was very thankful.
Yeah, you want to know what prayer I prayed the most in my whole life?
What's that?
God, just 5'11 and a half. Just 5'11 and a half, so it rounds up. That's all I need. 5'11 and a half. I prayed that for most of my teenage years.
That's strange because I am 5'11 and a half.
Well, good for you. Lottie freaking da, Destin Sandlin. Wow, bet you must really enjoy all the benefits that come in with being roundable to 6 feet tall. That's great, and I'm happy for you. Awesome. Also great that you got to interview the president and that he told you secret things about the government and different stuff that's going on. And it's great that you got to watch a gigantic explosion from a helicopter, and you're 5'11 and a half, just rounding it back out. This does sound
douchey. This was a douchey intro.
No, just things are good in your world. 5'11, jerk. No, that's good.
How tall are you? How tall are you?
6'2", 6.
You don't want to say. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. Base 10. I don't know. It's really hard to say. I mean, just with altitude and stuff factors in because of like barometric pressure at altitude's different, so it's really hard to say. And shoe manufacturers, they don't build to spec anymore because a lot of that's been outsourced. So it's very difficult to get an accurate read on height at this point in history. But 5'1", 5'2".
You're not 5'2".
No, of course not. No, I'm not 5'2". I'm 5'8" and change on a tall day.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Is it? Is it? You know what it sounds like to me?
What?
God rejecting my prayers. And yet, for some reason, I am still a person of faith. I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay, there is a lot to break down there. One, I feel like we need to circle back on the information war thing. I mean, people have always lied, right? Haven't people always lied to each other in war? I mean, wasn't like the reason we won the Revolutionary War that Washington was a masterful liar about logistics? And so the Brits just never were able to get a bead on his inferior forces. How is this era of weaponizing lying different than weaponizing lying in the past?
What do you mean weaponizing lying?
Well, I mean, you're talking about strategic misinformation as being one dimension of modern warfare moving forward. Right. A dimension that was not at all highlighted in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, might I add. That was all just bullets and rockets.
Well, let me clarify. Like, the cyber domain can be very different than just trying to influence people, because that's more of an information campaign, right? So the cyber domain can be, for example, let's say you, America, wanted to target some of my missile sites in my Uncle Stan because I'm going to shoot them at you, right? And I have radars, and I can detect any kind of aircraft that you have coming in my area. If you were good at what you do, America, you would use cyber assets to target my missile sites and take out my radar virtually. So maybe I think my radar is working, but it's not, because you know some secret backdoor thing to something I have.
Yes, because Tom Cruise sneaked up to your security camera and taped a picture of everything being fine over the camera while he's doing stuff right there behind that taped up picture.
I feel like we're talking about war, and you're not.
No, sorry. We've watched all the Mission Impossible movies.
I feel like war's pretty serious. And
I don't know, man. Did you hear the last episode of here on No Dumb Questions that you co-host?
Yeah, I did.
It was pretty serious.
It was pretty serious.
Forgive me if I joke just a tiny bit about war. I understand what you're saying. That makes perfect sense. I'm more interested in what you're bringing up on the misinformation campaign, though. Like the public misinformation campaign. What I'm asking is whether you feel like that is something that is now more possible than it's ever been because of how we interact and how things are electronically, or if we've always done that to try to mislead or redirect or manipulate a populace in the past, but we just did it on paper or in old school ways that didn't involve the digital world.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, they would drop leaflets from bombers to try to dishearten the soldiers. I mean that's the kind of thing that happened in the past. But now, I mean, it's very, very different. People can target your family back home while you're on the front lines fighting. If you can get to the guy's or the lady's spouse and you can stir up trouble at home, they're not going to be as an effective fighter on the front lines.
Whoa, you're talking about that level of targeting? Like trying to disrupt family?
Dude, this is crazy. Like, this is insane. Like, what's possible today is insane.
Wait, is this an actual thing, or did you just give people everywhere a horrible idea?
No, I mean, I'm just saying that all kinds of stuff is possible now. That's like misinformation stuff and like affecting, just think about your Twitter feed and how many people are fake on your Twitter feed.
Right.
Why on earth would there be that many fake people that are interested in Smarter Every Day or the 10-Minute Bible Hour? Why? I feel like if you can saturate a social media platform with fake accounts 5 years ago, then you can resurrect them at some moment in time and you can use those social media accounts to do your bidding, right?
And I think part of the reason that's so effective right now is because, one, we are accepting the idea that truth and morality are a product of consensus. And so licking the finger and putting it to the wind to figure out what everybody else thinks is something we're getting conditioned to do more of before we decide what our opinion will be. You don't want to be the first person reviewing a movie, because if you get it wrong and you're the only one who liked it on Rotten Tomatoes, you're going to look like an idiot for not thinking what everybody else thought when there's overwhelming consensus. So we have the consensus issue as that being where all truth and wisdom comes from. The second thing is, in the last 100 years or so, we've started calling off wars because a populace just got sick of it. Vietnam was really the first time that a war unfolded in front of people's faces. They got the updates every night on the news, and they weren't fun. It didn't look like a game. It didn't look like G.I. Joe guys. It didn't look like how we heard about it in carefully edited newsreels in World War II. And people kind of got sick of it, and it made it, very tricky to continue to fund and prosecute that war. All debate about whether that war should have ever even happened or not aside. We've seen military fatigue in the past where people are just sick of there being war. I mean, I think that explains the attitude in our country in the 1920s. Is World War I was horrible, and everybody just wanted a break for a decade or so, and that break turned out to be a very costly and expensive break. But what you're describing isn't war fatigue. It isn't, we see the horrors of war, so we don't support this policy anymore. I mean, because that's reality. What you're talking about is weaponizing not reality, weaponizing falsehood to move a large group of people in a certain direction. And so the third reason that I think that's possible more than ever right now is, I'm just going to say this. I think our democracy is kind of broken. You've got 35% of people on each end who are never going to change their mind, and they're super mad about stuff. And then you've got this middle section of people who kind of see some points that people have to their right that make sense and to their left that kind of make sense. And they just don't like all the yelling, and they wish people could just get along and it could not be like this. And that's effectively who decides elections. You need to get that middle, 20, 30% to go with your team this time around. So you're not trying to move the radicals. You're not trying to move the ideologues and the committed. You're trying to move the needle with the people who want to make other people happy and just want everybody to get along and for it to seem fair. That's a very vulnerable crowd, especially when you introduce social media. All of this to say, you're talking about seeing a boat blow up out in the middle of the ocean and you filming this for a video, but you're talking about multifaceted war. Connect the dots for me.
This exercise that I participated in was one of the largest demonstrations of that capability. We had people from multiple nations involved in this particular operation. And the communication chain was, that scene in Star Wars where they're on the Millennium Falcon and they're playing chess, or what looks like chess, and it's like this 3-dimensional game kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like 3D chess with multiple languages. It was very encouraging to see the ability of all of these things to operate together in a way that I had never thought possible. It was encouraging. And I'm going to do an official video on Smarter Every Day, kind of. I was out there for my job, and they let me film like what I do. And they said, yeah, we can get that approved so you can share that publicly. I was like, yes, that's awesome. And so I'm going to get to do that.
Wait, so the explosion?
Yeah.
On the high-speed camera, you get to show that?
Yeah, just keep in mind, I shot it from over 2 miles away through a soda straw. So, and it's also a special type of thing. Maybe they'll let me explain it. I don't know. But yeah, it's not like what you think it is. It's like, we're going to take out this place on this ship kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's real.
Oh yeah, it was real. And I was in a helicopter above it.
The point is there, though, I don't need to see a ship exploding. I can see that in movies. What's amazing about this is that it's real. It's not all rigged up. It's an actual weapon striking an actual weapon or vehicle of war, and you were there and you filmed it.
Yeah, and what's even cooler is after the fact, you got to understand, my part of this was very, very small. I am here observing and trying to collect information on this particular event, right? This one part of this whole huge naval exercise that's so large they only do it once every 2 years, and it's larger than you can imagine. The cool thing about that is after the fact, I was allowed to go speak to a 4-star general who actually commands troops in the region. And I got to talk to him about multi-domain operations, and it was rad. And I just asked him straight up. I said, can I speak to you alone? Can we just go into a room and I just talk to you like a normal person? And I watched the interview back, and it's two people talking. And there's times like you and I, we're kind of speaking over each other right now. It's just what we do. We're friends, and we just, that's how normal conversation goes. And there are times that I'm watching this and I'm cringing to myself. I'm like, I just spoke over a 4-star general. That's not cool. I look like a jerk right now. But then I'm like, but he's just rolling with it. This is just an actual 2 humans exchanging information. It's a fascinating conversation, and it matters. Like, what he says matters because he literally controls forces that shape global politics and policy. And it's fascinating. You feel like you're in over your head, but the principles remain the same. How things work, what people's motivations are, I don't know. It's just a fascinating thing. And I'm so very thankful to be able to have participated in it.
Okay, so first of all, I'm glad that guy could roll with it because he agreed to just step into a room and have an honest conversation. He knew what he was getting into. And dude's got to have some pretty fantastic interpersonal skills to get all 4 of those stars.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's fun for him to every now and then get to just engage with somebody like a person. So I'm not surprised he rolled with it. You're good at conversation. Although, somebody on Twitter told me to compliment you less. You're really good at conversation, but your head shape continues to be a mystery to me.
Excellent.
Cool. I hope that makes everybody happy. It's even now. So 1, awesome that you got to have a normal human conversation, or at least in a normal human way, with a 4-star general. 2, is that interview for the Army, or is that going into the Smarter Everyday video?
I said, can I just film this? And then you guys get it approved, make sure we don't say anything that can't be released. They're like, yeah, sure. So I'm in the process of getting that. I've got to edit it first. The guy's name, just so you know, his name is General Brown. He's 4-star General Robert Brown. Guess who he played basketball for in college?
Brown?
I can't do, this was a big moment in my life, Matt.
You told me to guess. I tried to pick an ironic guess. I feel like I'm doing well.
Coach K. He played for Coach K.
No kidding. What era?
before Duke at West Point.
Okay, Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski,
Yeah.
Duke Blue Devils,
Yeah.
like Olympic United States men's basketball coach.
Yeah.
For everybody who doesn't know American college basketball.
Yeah.
Like, for those who don't know, where would you say Mike Krzyzewski ranks in terms of like the pantheon of American basketball coaches?
In terms of college basketball, I would say 1.
I would say 1 also.
Number 1.
That's incredible.
Solid. And he did it at West Point. And he told me this really cool story. He's like, yeah, Coach K is actually the reason I'm in the Army. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, totally. He's like, I decided to go to West Point, play for Coach K because, you know, he's really tall. He's really athletic. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to go play basketball. And so a 4-star general in the military today is there because he made a single decision to go play for a certain coach at a certain time. Sounds like he made a good decision.
Yeah, now you're getting into the water of our last conversation again.
What's that?
Well, it's life with chapters.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Pick something, then something happens.
Anyway, I'm excited for this video, and it's deep water, man. It really is. So let me connect all the dots here.
Okay.
For 15 years, I've worked on missiles and rockets, and I have seen one small aspect of my role in the overall bigger picture. I finally met the guy that controls a bigger part of the picture. It's like I was a player on the 3D chessboard, and I finally met the person who's controlling those individual pieces, and I realized that it's not a normal chess game. It's not two-dimensional chess. It's actually a multi-dimensional operation, and it's very, very complicated. And I thought that my one piece of the world here was hyper important, and I realize now that it's just a very small component into a much, much bigger picture, and it made me feel small.
Sounds like an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I wasn't even there, and it makes me feel small. But also, God failing to answer my prayers make me feel small.
like physically, stature.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yes, that's what I'm referencing. This episode of No Dumb Questions is brought to you by Away. Destin, what do you know about Away?
It's awesome. It's a suitcase that can charge your phone, and it's like well engineered with awesome materials. For example, even the casters that you roll your suitcase around with, it's engineered to perfection. I love it. I can push it with one hand out in front of me. It's just a well-designed suitcase. Far and away better than anything I've ever used.
And what I hear is it was founded by a couple of friends like us who sit around and workshop things all the time. And sometimes that workshopping isn't fruitless. And so these guys just traveled a ton, and they're like, you know, this would be the kind of travel suitcase that would solve all of our travel problems. And so then they just built it, and then now I guess people can buy that if they want to.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. There's carry-on variations of the luggage. There's a couple of different carry-on sizes that you can use, and they have this removable charger for your phone, because anybody that's ever been in an airport knows that it's very difficult to charge your phone at times. It's got a built-in phone charger, and it's TSA compliant. It's awesome. Like, that in itself is genius.
Yes, just the pleasure of rolling this, because, you know, at airports, you get that really nice surface, and if you've got really nice wheels, it's just silky to move it along. And so normally, if you get a wheelie suitcase, you hold it at an angle and kind of drag it, which I guess you could do with this if you wanted to, but this is different. It's way more dignified. I bring the little stand out, and then it rolls on all four wheels rather, at the same exact time. It's just silky. It slides around corners with you. It's a fun game just to go through the airport and navigate all the obstacles, because your bag is so, what do you say? It's good at handling.
Maneuverable. Yeah.
Maneuverable.
It's like a fighter jet
sports car
suitcase.
Yeah, there you go. You're understanding me.
Yeah, I got you. And here's the thing about the offer they give you. There's a 100-day trial period. You can try it, like live with it. You can Instagram whatever it is you do with your suitcase. And if you don't like it, you just return it for a full refund. No questions asked. People that do that, I have respect for them. So that tells me right up front, they know they have the best product, and they're like, hey, try it.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. So you might as well just go ahead and get it because it's the right one.
Yeah, it's a truth will out move. And so is the whole business model. We like working with companies like this. They think they have the best thing. And I guess a lot of times if you don't think you have the best thing, you still feel like you could make a living with it by padding it using middlemen and all kinds of logistics and find some kind of profit margin in there. These guys clearly think they have the best thing because they just sell it to you. We don't have to find a way to make a profit. It speaks for itself. And it is that good. I use this. Do you find that you can pack more in your away bag than comparable bags of the same size?
Yeah, you can. It's got the polycarbonate, and this sounds like I'm like reading. I'm not reading right now. It's got that polycarbonate side, and so it swells just as much as it needs to. You know what I mean? It's not like a incredibly rigid side, so that if it hits the side of, I don't know, the Square People pipe, like I did that little test back in the day, where it would dent, it gives just enough. And that also equates to it giving when you're, do you ever do the scrunch thing on your suitcase and you're like on top of it and pushing it down and all that? Yeah, the zipper's great, high quality, no worry about that thing breaking or anything like that. I like it. It's awesome. And I will read this part. Here's the part that we read, and I want to get this right, because this is how people can actually get the bag with a discount. So for $20 off a suitcase, visit awaytravel.com/NDQ20 and use the promo code NDQ20 during checkout.
Perfect. And I would say that what I have liked the most about this is that it has taken something that is entirely utilitarian in my life, a bag to throw my crap in and drag around, and turned it into a pleasure. It's just a treat to get to use this.
Yeah, let me say it one more time.
Wait, can I say it this time?
Yeah, go for it.
I'd like a turn. For $20 off a suitcase, visit awaytravel.com/NDQ20 and use the promo code NDQ20 during checkout. How was that?
That was good. And they literally put their money where their mouth is. They're like, hey, take the suitcase. You're going to love it. If you don't, for whatever reason, just send it back. It's awesome. That is a really good way to run a business.
Yep. awaytravel.com/NDQ20, promo code NDQ20 during checkout. Back to the conversation?
Let's do it. So where were you? Because I came back from that trip, and I came back from, I was dadding for a while, and then you just kind of went off the grid. What happened? Yeah. Where'd you go?
It was crazy. It was our anniversary week, and yeah, it's the been together longer than we weren't anniversary.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So that one hit you. It's a good thing that I super like her, and I think she likes me back, or else that would be awful. Instead, it's good.
That is good.
No, so it was a big deal, and it's just been a weird summer getting back in the saddle and everything here in Wyoming after sabbatical, and I just wanted to do something. So we threw something together real quick, and a friend came through with this amazing cabin in Montana, just across the border into Montana. And so we, okay, I can't. So, we can't have video if you're going to do things like that. Okay. You're abusing the video privilege.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering if you were actually looking at me. That was my way of testing.
That was first of all, let me just say, a fantastic drawing, and and not at all disorienting. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm still focused. Oh, please don't draw another one. I see what you're doing.
Another what?
You're making it worse. I'm trying to tell you about important things in my life.
Tell me about your love for your wife.
I can't now because of that. Don't put that up there again.
Okay, I won't.
She's super. I've told you about my love for my wife before. She's fantastic and continues to be fantastic. And I don't know, we try to do cool stuff for anniversaries. And we got this cabin that a buddy owns, and it's just right on the edge of a signal. So that was nice too. We could a little bit get a couple things done, but mostly just disappear into the woods. So in northern Wyoming, as you come out of the northeast entrance of Yellowstone, and I live very close to Yellowstone, and we go there a lot. We don't usually go there in August or July because it's just miserably overrun with park guests. And it was that way again. So, the wildlife's not really present this time of year. It's just not a great time to go. But whatever. We went out the northeast entrance, though, to route toward our friend's cabin. And when you come out the northeast entrance, there's this fork in the road where if you go south, you get the Chief Joseph Highway.
Is this the one where the water goes one way, it goes in the Atlantic, and the other way it goes in the Pacific?
Well, no, that's the Continental Divide. And
Okay.
The Continental Divide is everywhere where we live.
Okay.
Including a gigantic basin where the Continental Divide surrounds an area so all the water stays in. It doesn't go anywhere, ever. Right by our house. It's kind of a weird spot.
That's cool.
No, there's a fork in the road. You go south, you're on the Chief Joseph Highway, which is one of the most dramatic drives in the continental United States. Just one of those crazy high mountain passes where you have no shoulder, and if you make a mistake and the guardrail's not there, it's, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 feet plummet, that kind of thing would be your fate. But just an amazing view from up there, and you can see clear back into Yellowstone. And Chief Joseph Highway is one of the most beautiful drives I've ever seen. But if you go north on that fork toward Montana, you go over what's called the Beartooth Highway, which I have always heard is even more impressive than the Chief Joseph Highway. But I've just never had an occasion to go that direction. I don't know why, so I've always meant to.
In Montana?
Most of the Beartooth Highway is in Wyoming, just barely. But then it takes you down into Montana. So how can I describe this?
Wait. When you say down into Montana, you're talking about in elevation.
In elevation, yes.
Okay.
Because the summit of the road is basically 11,000 feet. And, you hear about 14ers in Colorado, and you hear about, stuff in Nepal that's 20,000 feet plus. And so you think, 11, no big deal. Not so. 11 is way up there. You feel it, you notice it, you're above the timberline. And so we start cruising up this Beartooth Highway, and it's incredible. It reminds me a lot. Have you ever been to Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado?
No, I guess I haven't.
Okay, there's a great drive there coming just out of Estes Park, Colorado, called the Trail Ridge Road. And it goes up even higher than this it goes up into alpine tundra. So no trees, you got little like pikas running around and marmots and stuff, and otherwise just low shrubs, and crazy weather rolls in at that elevation all the time. And that's kind of the crown jewel of Rocky Mountain National Park. Have you ever been to Glacier National Park?
No, I really want to go bad.
Wow, if you had any friends that lived in the West, you could go visit them.
Golly, I really
look
want
at that
to.
stuff.
I hear there's a road over there
friend.
called like Road to the Sun or something like that.
Yes, Going to the Sun Road. That's Glacier.
Yeah, I want to do that.
So basically, if you just go north or south to north, you've got Trail Ridge Road in Colorado, Rocky Mountain National Park. Then outside of Yellowstone, you've got this Beartooth Highway. And then if you go all the way up to the Canadian border in Glacier, you've got Going to the Sun Road. These are these three freakishly high, crazy roads. Well, I've been on two of them a bunch, but I've never been on the Beartooth Highway. This thing just starts blowing my mind. I got to this place called Island Lake, and I hopped out first cast with my fly line in this cool, like marshy, brushy, sponge ground area. I catch this beautiful native cutthroat trout, which doesn't maybe sound like a big deal, but you always get certain kinds of trout, but cutthroat are our Wyoming native trout, and so it's always kind of special when you get one of those because they're weak and they're rare, and they've just struggled. And so I got one of those, and got a beautiful brook trout right after that. My kids start catching fish on the fly line. Perfect sunset, just surrounded by high mountain peaks right at the timberline. It was just fantastic, man. And I'm doing a terrible job of characterizing how it was just... It's just one of those moments, and they always seem to happen at sunset.
Majestic.
You sent me those.
That's the word. Majestic.
And you just wish you could hit pause on time because people you love are there. It's the perfect weather. It's beautiful. I mean, it's like what I imagine you were feeling when you snapped those two pictures you sent me the other night with your family and the truck sunset. And all of that. Yeah. So we get done there, and I'm like, this is the best day I've had in forever. I'm feeling something that I haven't felt in a while, and I'm kind of, just reflecting on that. And we drive up further, and it gets even more dynamic. You're just on top of this gigantic mountain plateau at like 11,000 feet, and you can see everything. Back into Yellowstone, down into central Wyoming, clear up into Montana, out onto the plains. It's unbelievable.
I don't know, man. I get excited about a really cool drive with my family, and I like to fish. But for you, it's like this different level. You will shut down everything in your life to go catch a fish that you're going to release and you might take a picture of.
Yeah.
That's great, dude. I kind of wish I had the thing that you have about that. I just don't.
This goes all the way back to early conversations that you and I have had. I love being in a place where I am so overwhelmed with beauty that I don't know what to do. I got up there and I tried to get on the horn with you and you were out to dinner because I had a signal on top of the mountain. Like there just shouldn't be a signal there, but I had one. I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to call my friend right now.
Yeah,
and you were like,
did.
I can't. I'm a Chick-fil-A. And I was like, oh, well, if you're a Chick-fil-A, like I have nothing to offer you that Chick-fil-A can't.
Well, when you did call me, you were like, dude, I'm here.
What?
And that's exactly what you said. I'm here.
I didn't call you.
That was a text.
Yeah, it was just a text.
And it was a picture of
me,
you
and I was
on
like,
the mountain. And I was like, that's great.
No, you were not like that. You were like, are you drunk?
I did say that. That's literally what
I have the text here in front of me. Are you drunk? And then question mark.
No.
The answer was possibly. Altitude does strange things to a man.
What happens to your brain? Because I don't have that. And I'm not making fun of you for having that because I don't. And I'm a little jealous that I don't. And I think maybe it's because I'm too analytical or something like that. But
I'm pretty analytical.
What does it feel like?
It's what I wanted on the whole sabbatical and I couldn't find it. What I wanted was to experience a new thing that it just gives me that moment of being completely overwhelmed with beauty. Not like I want to cry or something. There's no little girl. Oh, there was a little girl running fast, but it didn't make me cry. I like feeling like there's stuff out there I don't know, and it awakens this sense of wonder that was my favorite thing about being a kid, that was my favorite thing about school, that is my favorite thing about research. Honestly, it might be my favorite thing about my job, digging through a 2,000-year-old book and finding things that inspire wonder, or the deity that I believe is on the other side of that book. But to see something that my brain just can't compute, I just don't. I get the science behind it. I know why those rocks are the way those rocks are. But to take it all in and to have the sum of this...
I got it. I think I know how to say it.
Plant life and the weather and the humans that I'm there with and the moment, to have that all add up to something that I just can't emotionally fathom is just, I love the feeling. You say it your way.
You want to feel small.
As mentioned earlier, that is a continual state of being for me, but I want to feel even smaller.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to feel small. It's like a place that helps you understand how big everything is and how small you are.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It's at least part of the equation. I think about mortality, and it doesn't make me sad when I'm there. I mean, you're just surrounded by something that's far more ancient than you and that will be there much longer than you. And then I think about, how did the fish get into that lake? It's fed by a glacier. How are there fish in there?
I'm going bird poop or something.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good theory. Or a lost catch from a lower lake. Maybe it was pregnant and it just ended up in there. I don't know. So it goes on. I'm having this overwhelming moment of awe. You're not up for it. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. I can work with that. We're still friends. I knew you wouldn't be up for it, and I'm not offended by that. So I called Adam, and Adam just happened to be hanging out with my friends Brett and Heather, who were down there in Fort Collins.
To be fair, I was having an important conversation with my dad about my grandparents and his relationship to them and all the people in our family that I didn't know.
Oh, crap. I made you feel criticized.
I had some information from my grandfather from when he was, like, conversations when he was close to death that my dad had never heard, and I was sharing that, and vice versa. Dad was sharing conversations with me. So it was kind of a big moment, but even if it wasn't a big moment, I still would not have understood the grandeur that you were feeling, to be honest.
Yeah, and there's no way to convey it from there. And like any good friendship, like I just know the stuff that does not fall in our Venn diagram and that is very difficult for you to compute. And I know that whatever nature and the high country and the joy of getting a nice fish on a fly rod, whatever that does, I know it just doesn't compute for you the same way. I don't find that off-putting at all. I don't need that to compute for you.
Right.
But it is fun for me to try to explain in retrospect why this matters.
And please never stop. please never stop, because I'm not saying this. I mean, I don't know. I feel that it's real. I just feel like there's something that I can't touch yet. So please never stop trying to explain it. But I'm just not with you yet. That's just the way it is.
Thanks. That's okay. So we go down, we get checked into our cabin. We come up the next day because I've decided I'm going to fish this crazy high mountain lake that's only fed by a glacier, right? But we get up there and I got more glacier than I wanted. It blizzarded. Like straight horizontal whipping snow blizzard in the same place that was bliss the night before.
I feel like it's August right now.
Yeah, it was August for sure. And so there's these bikers who are up there, and I mean this wind is, I don't know what number to put on it, but it was howling. You couldn't ride a motorcycle in it, at least not into it. And so they're just stuck there on top of this bald mountain, and I'm just watching them become covered in snow. And we're there with the truck, and I was like, well, we should probably let them in. And so I went out and asked, and I was like, hey, I got a warm truck and a dog. You guys want to just get in? And they were like, no. I'm like, all right, cool.
We'd rather die.
That's basically it, man. And so we gave it about 5 minutes, and like their helmets are covered and they can't see.
Oh my gosh, I have a story about that later. Okay.
Oh, I want it.
Okay.
And so I went back out and I was like, I just wondered if you'd reconsidered, because it's really warm in here. It's super cold out here. You guys it's fine. And so then they took us up on it. They're a couple of French Canadians. They're a couple. They're on their first bike trip across the United States or around the West. They were caught totally unprepared for this storm. We sat in there for like 45 minutes and just talked about Canada and all of their ideas about stuff, and they were wonderful. So they got on the way. No more mountains that day. We come up the next day, dude. It is bliss. 11,000 feet, no wind, not a cloud in the sky, perfect blue sky. We go right to the place that I want to fish, and it is, again, it's like a meadow up there. The whole thing, it's flat on top of a mountain in a way, like rolling hills before you get to the crazy drop off that makes it mountainy. You can picture this?
I can picture this.
Okay. So we park the car and we walk down about a mile, as downhill as you can walk safely on this trail, to this glacier-fed lake. And so I mean, by glacier-fed, I mean this is where all the water starts. There's no inlet to this lake. And it's just in this bowl. I mean, 750 foot, 1,000 foot, just basin encircling you almost all the way around in just gray granite. Clear up, like higher than a skyscraper looks when you're standing underneath it. Insane rise. And the water is just alive with brook trout. And so I fish it with my kids. There's snow there. The dog wants to play in the snow. Oh, it's amazing. Amazing. And my heart is just full with love for my kids and my wife and the world and the stupid dog. And it's just like the world felt entirely different for about 4 straight hours. And I have not been in that zone for 4 hours in a row in years, decades, man. I can't even remember the last time I was just overloaded with joy and beauty and overcome with it. No service down there, nothing I can do with it, nobody to call in, nobody to, futilely try to share it with because of the limitations of my ability to articulate it. And when I thought it couldn't get any better, I'm hiking around this basin to find other places to catch fish, and I'm seeing this little stream. Can I tell this part? Is this too much? Is this too much gushing?
No, go ahead. I'm trying to understand. Keep going.
Okay, I appreciate it. So there's this stream with huge, way bigger fish than should be in a stream this tiny. I mean, you're talking about just a little trickle running back through all of this ground cover. And so I'm following it back. I'm like, where are these guys coming from? And I go over this little rise, and there's a glacier about the size of my backyard. So maybe not even a glacier, just maybe I don't know what you call it. A big chunk of ice and snow that is going to melt into August and September and then refuel in the winter. And there is this pool there that, again, I would say 100 feet by 100 feet. Not huge. It is literally 6 inches deep, crystal clear, glacial water. And it looks like the bottom of this water is tiled patio with natural stone. No mud, no dust, just...
The geologic feature is square?
Well...
Like square crystals?
Yeah. Like flat patio stone.
I feel like the one of the Windows screensavers is that. Is it?
I can't picture it, but
anyway,
yes.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's that kind of beautiful. So it's not like you'd have to wade in. It's exactly 6 inches deep everywhere. 100 by 100, beautiful little pool. There's no dust or muck being stirred up because it's just stones placed there like a patio. And this glacier is just drip, drip, drip. I'm watching it melt and feed this water. Well, the fish are, one, just totally visible everywhere. I can just see all the fish I'm trying to catch. So I can cast right to them and then they bite it because they don't know people. And then I catch them and then I let them go and then they bite it again because they still haven't learned. So it's just all the fish you want. And then I walk back over to the glacier and dude, the fish are lined up with their faces under the drip edge of the glacier, waiting for some frozen fish food to drip out of the glacier where they just sip it off the top, just lined up. I've never seen anything like this.
You just drop a fly in and pick them out?
Yep. Until I started to feel like it just wasn't even nice anymore. And so I backed away and left them alone. I could have caught who knows how many more fish there, or the same fish again and again and again. And I just left out of mercy. I've never done that. And so my family walked up ahead of me and I stayed down for about an hour. And just spiritually, emotionally, relationally, my stuff just felt different, man. Like a couple times on the walk up, I let my brain go to stupid crap on the internet and mean people yelling at each other and all the, the crap storm. And it was like, it just wasn't even real. It's like, there's something bigger. There are things that matter more. And it was 4 hours of absolute spiritual, emotional, relational peace like I haven't felt in forever. And I can't wait to feel it again.
This is so bizarre, dude. Like, I feel like we're pretty similar people.
Do you?
We're pretty similar people. Like, people on the outside looking in and be like, those dudes are exactly the same person. They fit all my stereotypes of X, Y, Z, and they probably vote this way. That's one I'm getting on the internet a lot now. People are starting to assume they know how I vote. And
they're wrong about me, too.
They are. And I don't know. People think we're exactly the same. And we're just sitting here talking about things that make us feel small. And for me, it's this huge, like trying to understand conflict on a massive human-wide level and trying to understand how to master that conflict and all the implications of different parts of it and all this stuff. It's a challenging thing for me to figure out. And it makes me feel very small, but at the same time, it makes me feel very, like a player, but a very tiny player. And for you, it's just like this peaceful bliss thing. Like I just sat there and listened to me, dude, this feels so disrespectful to say this, and I apologize.
We got enough history. Rock and fire.
I feel like you just said, dude, I drove up this mountain and there was some water with a fish in it. And then guess what? I drove some more and there was some more water with other fish in it. And I caught them. And then there was snow near the water and the fish wanted to eat stuff out of the snow. And so I caught them. And I feel like, I know all that sounded rude.
Nope.
It's just difficult for me to understand because our brains are wired so differently that I saw a really great sunset yesterday while I was on the mower and I was like, man, that's cool. I will pause this mower for, you know what? I'll pause for 10 seconds and take a photo. That's pretty. I appreciate that. All right, I gotta go cut this. Like I'm driven by accomplishing things on the punch list and just knocking things out. And that's what charges my batteries when my punch list gets knocked out. For you, it's like a total disconnect. When I can disconnect and unplug from everything, that's what charges your batteries.
That and beauty.
Yeah.
To disconnect and do nothing doesn't work for me. Being overwhelmed by beauty and wonder. I'm addicted. I just can't get enough. And it's not just nature. You know what? Honestly, when we went, what did we go see? Oh, we went and saw Paul, Apostle of Christ in Alabama when we were there. Usually you go see a Christian movie, you know, it's going to be just a flaming dumpster fire.
Right.
And so I wanted to go and see that. And it actually turned out that those guys did a good job. And so we were kind of in a place where I think we all had at least some level of emotional response to seeing like really a pretty good effort in a place where usually it's a terrible effort.
Right.
And then we went to Chili's. It's just Chili's, man. It's just Chili's. It's queso dip and bloating. But in spite of, you know, a really interesting waiter and some really interesting people sitting next to us, we had a really good talk about stuff. And there was a moment in that conversation with you and Tara and Camilla where I just felt like I could freeze time here for a while. This is neat. Like, these are people I really care about, and I like hearing what they have to say. And this is a nice moment. And so it's not just nature. They're just these tastes of something bigger and that matters more than the mundane and the hostile and the constant striving and battling. Like, in that moment, hanging out with you guys in honest conversation, nobody was there on merit. I just care about you because I care about you.
Yeah.
And you guys just care about us because you care about us. And that's all. I treasure stuff like that. And I really value those. I want to freeze time right now and drink this in kind of moments. And it sounds like you do too. It just sounds like your time freeze is a little quicker.
For me, it's all about the return on the investment in time. Like, every waking moment I have, I need to be investing in something. And right now it's my kids. I'm trying to invest in my kids as hard as I can. And so I don't want to pick up a fishing rod and go catch a fish because I want to show them how to catch a fish.
I did that too.
I don't know. I feel like every moment will be wasted if I don't spend it building something or investing in something. I don't know.
I don't think this is your scenario, but I would throw out generically that this can happen. Let me put it like this. When I used to work with students all the time, I would often have students who would come along and they'd be like, hey, I'm going to college. I've picked a major. I'm going to major in art. And I was like, oh, cool. I really like art. What do you want to make art about? Huh? What is your art going to be about? Well, it's like paintings of things.
Art and
cool.
stuff.
What's the point? And when they couldn't answer, then I would seize on that opportunity with just about every aspiring art major to be like, hey, maybe double major. Like, pick something that really makes you think, that causes you to have an opinion or a reaction, and learn that discipline really well so that you make art about something instead of art. Lots of people make stuff, but having a compass that points you in a direction or that makes you want to react to something or communicate something, that's how great art happens. You're doing something, you have an idea, or you can't just contain it. And I feel like I am not talking about you, but having your compass reset with beauty and smallness or whatever it might be is a task, because it's an orienting thing to do. And so every week I got a group of people who pool their money and ask me to stand up in front of them and talk about a very difficult to interpret document in a way that is hopefully gracious and accurate, and then to put the ball in their court and let them decide what they want to do with it. Maybe some people think it's silly that such a job even exists, but it does, and it matters, and it affects people's lives, whether we're into it or not. I don't know. I want to have my head screwed on straight, dude. People trust me. I don't want to say crazy crap or convenient crap or easy crap. And I feel like a connectedness to a sense of beauty and wonder in some ways is insulation against me becoming so task-oriented that I just produce things because I need to produce. I want to produce the right things. I don't think you're failing in that regard, by any means. Me saying that is not an implicit criticism of you. That's just maybe part of why I care about it, is that I think it, in a way, maybe it is kind of a task.
I like that we're different.
We should do a podcast.
You know who I talked to the other day?
Tell me.
Jack Conte, CEO of Patreon.
Really?
Yes.
What'd you guys talk about?
I had a question about some offer somebody gave me, and I just was completely in the dark. And I texted him. I was like, hey, can we talk? And you just kind of do the thing where you teach people things. And that dude is smart, dude. Like, really, really smart.
Like, there aren't too many people on the internet. I'm like, I just want to meet that guy at some point. I've never met or interacted with him at all. I'd really like to meet that guy at some point. So, yeah, that's me putting you on notice.
Have you ever watched the video when he started Patreon?
No, honestly, the only stuff I've ever seen other than a couple of interviews is his stuff that he does musically, the Pomplamoose stuff.
You have to watch. So he created this style of video he called video songs, and it's him playing all the instruments and then smashing it together. He created this video called Pedals, where it's like this music video and these robots dance and stuff like that. And at the end of this video, he gives this like sleep-deprived monologue about this thing he wants to create called Patreon. And he just looks at the camera. He's like, look, I know this makes no sense to anybody right now, but trust me, it's going to change the world. And it does. Like, you have to watch this video. We have to link it. It's called Pedals Music Video, featuring real robots. And at the end of that, he buries the announcement for Patreon. It's fantastic.
Whoa, Babe Ruth pointing to the right field fence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
I know you're bringing that up because you're talking about Patreon, but have you seen the video he did, or they did, I guess, called Don't Stop Loving Me?
No.
It's just wonderful. He wants to impress this girl, but she clearly likes people who are good at dancing, and he's terrible. Uh-huh. So the video is like basically this montage of him learning sweet dance moves through like rigorous late night study sessions, and then going back to where the girl he likes is. I think her name's Dawn, right?
Natalie Dawn.
Natalie Dawn. Thank you. That was close. I haven't met them. I don't know them. And then he does this amazingly edited dance that apparently woos her. And it's just the most innocent, fun, and I love the song. It's just great. And that was my first exposure to the guy. I was like, this dude's a genius. And I think it was you who actually pointed out his connection to Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, most of the comments here are about the last episode, and there are a bunch of really smart comments. Joel over on Patreon asks, how do you know when it's time to end a chapter? What if you feel like it's time to end a chapter, but you're not sure how to start the next chapter or even what the next chapter is supposed to be? Sounds like the right questions.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Oh, yes. Cameron Pope. This episode made me finally sign up for Patreon. Thank you, Cameron. And I had signed up for HelloFresh, so thank you for that too. But this is what's catching my eye. Also, any mention of Fred Jones Part 2 makes me very happy. I still missed up if I hear that song. Did you go and listen to Ben Folds' Fred Jones Part 2 after we talked last time?
I did, and there were tons of comments about people crying because they listened to it. Did you see the one guy that said he was crying on the bus?
Yeah, I think I responded to that one.
Yeah. I wasn't laughing at you. I'm just like, wow, that just seems like it was an awkward situation, and I apologize for Matt's behavior to make you do that.
Oh, that's okay. I don't know, man. Buses are a reflective place. It's a time for thinking. I could see myself being on a bus, looking out a window, hearing that song, and bawling. I'm not going to judge that, man.
You just took me to a deep place. I don't know how to. What am I supposed to say to that?
I don't know. Like, you just need to be nicer to people who cry on buses. I'm sorry to have to speak into your life so aggressively, but it's true. Okay, here we go. A couple things. This is from Nelson Spies on Patreon. A couple things. History Nugget. Hooray. Thank you. That's going to be fun. This sounds like an opportunity for some ancient VHS recordings with barnacles and testicles to have the showing intentionally misspelled so it wouldn't get caught in the filter.
The blacklist.
Is there a filter? I don't know. Also, both of your views on phases of life and priorities are very refreshing. This started my week off well. Thanks, Nelson.
Sweet. That's awesome.
There was another comment on here that I wanted to read to you. Oh, yes, here it is. Michael Bucciaroni says, it was the incredible Nickelback impression. I said, that's it. I must give these people money.
Are you serious?
That's what it says, man. Like, wow.
Just for Michael. Look at this photograph.
Come on, guys. Honestly, just get the guy's email and make a video. I don't need to be a part of that at all. But thank you, Michael. Seriously.
That's hilarious. That's really good. That's the only line I know from that whole song.
Yeah, I think it's plenty.
Somebody sent me I forget, was it on Patreon? Somebody sent me, they had edited out the word photo, and it's from the music video, and he's holding it up. He goes, "Look at this graph."
And he's holding a graph.
I'm like, that is wonderful. Like, what I need to do is anytime someone asks me for data from now on, I need to go to Adobe Premiere and like edit in my data to that graph.
Yes. How hard would it be? I don't know. Like Bethany could whip that right up for you.
No, we could just make a template.
Oh, we're on to something, aren't we?
Oh, we are.
Something just happened, didn't it?
Oh, God, it did.
It's so much money. There's so much money in this. And I'm not sharing any with Chad Kroger or any of these people. That's ours. That's our idea.
What if we make a Dropbox link that's an Adobe Premiere, and then we just look at this graph.
You get worse every time you
I know.
sing
I'm
it.
just trying to think. I was doing math in my head while trying to impersonate that guy.
You can't do both.
I can't. Okay.
Do you know what the point is?
What?
The people who support us on Patreon are really generous and cool, and
They are cool.
we appreciate.
You know why?
them.
You know why? Hold on. Let me just click. Look at this graph.
No, it's not. Honestly, I thought you were going Sabaton and you went Nickelback.
It's the
Come on, man.
Sabaton.
It's like asking for an egg and getting a scorpion. It's just the wrong thing to do.
Next episode, dude. Next
Tina,
episode.
Fix that in post.
We have something that I have to explain to you next episode. It's happening.
Well, then there will be a next episode. Okay, so thanks, patrons. If you want to be a part of the patron thing, you can do that at patreon.com/nodumbquestions. And just seriously, if you're not into that, we're thrilled that you're here. But if you are, obviously, thanks a ton. It makes it possible for us to do this, and that means a lot.
Dude, you meant every bit of that, and I meant it too, but I'm sitting here looking at the people that are pledging every month, and it's literally on a graph, and I'm never going to be able to look at these graphs again without hearing that.
That's where you are mentally right now.
You know what I'm going to do, Matt?
Tell me.
I'm going to make a graph, and I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to make a video, and it's a graph that's only for patrons, and I'm going to share it with them on Patreon.
What should the graph be?
I'm in charge of the graph.
I have an idea for the graph.
I'm in charge of the graph.
Okay.
Patreon.com/nodumbquestions. Inbound, my friends. It's happening.
Can I bring up one more thing before we wrap up?
Yeah.
Okay. So you pried open an enormous Pandora's box of
photograph.
Oh, you're doing that again. I thought we had an agreement on and off air that would be the last time.
Look
I know
at
it.
this
I knew it was
photograph.
That's really good. It should consider being in a cover band. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so there was a post on r/NDQ, the subreddit where people can post whatever.
And that's getting cool, by the way. People are participating in a big way.
Yeah, with each other too.
Yeah.
Some of it's directed at us, but what I like is that a lot of it's just directed at other listeners and good conversations are happening.
Yeah.
There's a couple in there right now that require like actual thought for me to respond to well. So I'm working on that. But here's one that's in response to stuff that you said last time around. So this is a post by, Clever at Skeletor, but it's SK3LLYTOR. That's clever. Parzival. So, okay, it says, A Life of Chapters, Reflections. Firstly, this might be a little rantish, so sorry in advance, but I have to say that this episode really struck home with me right now. I'm 28 with a wife and a 1-year-old, and I've been struggling to find motivation for staying in my office job. Besides the normal object of needing money to pay bills, I don't understand if this is what I want to do with my life. Kind of feeling a little depressed, if I'm being truthful, because I feel trapped by needing to earn money, but not enjoying what I do, or I'm not making any impact in the world. My dumb question would be, how you would find motivation when you feel trapped, but don't know what else you would do, because you don't have experience in any field. Clarification. People say, do what you love, but I don't know what I'd love to do because I haven't done much else besides work. Additionally, if anyone has gone through this or is going through this, how are you dealing with it and what has gotten you out of your rut and some other stuff. So you just made a big move. We just talked about it a whole bunch. Here's somebody hearing that and trying to figure out how that affects their world. What would you say?
I would say do something. So first of all, let me just bring up another comment that was made. I don't know who made it, but it was well received. Like, I agree with the person. They said, I don't know that this episode makes a lot of sense because Destin's a YouTuber, and, you know, a YouTuber telling you know, talking about leaving his job, that's not fair, right? So there was a comment like that. I don't know.
I saw it. It was a good comment.
It was a good comment. It was well thought out. I don't know how it was written exactly. I wish I could find it. But anyway, I thought that was a good comment. And that was like, dude, sometimes you got to feed babies. Like, that was basically the heart of the comment. And it's important to do that. Like, if you get a job that you're well compensated for, it makes sense to do that. And the answer is, my perspective is yes, I agree with that 100%. This person sounds like they feel, look, because I feel trapped by needing to earn money, but not enjoying what I do, or I'm not making any impact in the world. I don't think that's true. I don't think you can just say, I'm not making any impact in the world, because your neighbor is part of the world. Like, just because you're not doing huge, grand things like shaping geopolitical policies when it comes to multi-domain operations, or seeing a particular fish on a mountain, if you're in Matt's case or whatever. And
thanks for calling that a big, huge thing.
Yeah. I think that you can make an impact wherever you're at. And that impact can be literally the entire world to someone. You know what I mean?
I absolutely do know what you mean. Yeah. And those things take time and risk. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. But yeah, there's meaningful stuff to be done wherever.
To be more specific, you can invest in other people in ways that change their life for the better. You can invest in your own life in ways that change your life and your family's life. I think it's important to affect change as much as possible wherever you're at.
Yeah. I'm a believer in trajectory. If I feel at night as I go to bed like stuff is trending in a good direction, I'm good. If I feel like stuff's getting worse, even if things are pretty good, I just don't like that direction, and it's tough to go to sleep at night.
Did you ever take calculus?
No. I stopped at trig.
There's this thing in calculus where there's a curve, right? I feel like we've talked about this. There's a curve, and at any moment in time, if you take the derivative, that's the slope of the curve.
Okay.
And so if you take the derivative and it's positive, that means the function is trending in a positive direction. If you take the derivative and set it equal to 0, that means it's flat, it's horizontal. If you take the derivative and it's negative, that means it's trending negative. And I'm a big fan of exactly what you're saying. As long as you take the derivative, whether it's like, let's just use weight, for example. If I step on the scale and it is any less than what it was, that's probably trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
If you're trying to hit a target weight that's below. I mean, some people need to gain weight, whatever. So that's something to think about. The way you said it is very different than the way I think about it, but it's exactly spot on. Trending is the term you used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that you can do something about at any point. You know, there were a couple times where I was ribbing you a little bit in that last conversation. That's part of what I was driving at, and I think you nailed it when you just said do something. There was a realtor, of all people, I was buddies with in Nebraska. His name was Ty. And one of the things that he said, he's like, you know, Matt, because this is how we talked every single day. I try to do something that moves everything toward where I want it to be, at least one thing, 10 minutes a day, 1 minute a day, anything. I just need to feel like it's moving in that direction, and then things are better. And he just always say, he gave me that talk like 10 times. And he was a mover and a shaker.
I really like that voice. That needs to be a character.
Imagine it with an enormous mustache where you can't really see his mouth. And that's the guy.
I really like that guy.
Dude, opened a furniture shop while creating a real estate agency. He just did all kinds of stuff and moved and shook in politics. Just a fascinating character. I really liked hanging out with him. And part of the reason I liked it is because he was always doing something and he lived by that motto. He was, like your level motivation. Go hard all the time. So there were places where we didn't relate quite as much. But that is true. If a week goes by and I have a project or something is developing that I'm working on, I feel pretty good. If I didn't get it all done that week, but I put a week's worth of thought into it and developed it and put stuff on paper, got out the camera, whatever, okay, cool. I try to put out a 10-minute Bible hour every week. Yeah, if it's every week and a half sometimes, as long as I'm trending in that direction, that's great. Bigger projects are kind of the same way. Because, I mean, isn't the first step always the hardest one? Just do something. And so a lot of times when people picture life change or stuff that provides meaning, they go right to job. But you saying do something, I think is spot on, because it doesn't have to be job. Pick something and then do something every day that moves the needle in that direction. If you get sick of going in that direction, pick a different thing and do that. If you're building something, life feels better.
I'm thinking about 2 conversations I've had recently. Number one, someone met me at the airport when we were getting Tara's luggage off the plane. They went to Uganda and met people that we've worked with in the past. And so on the way back, we're at the luggage carousel, and this guy walks up to me. He watches Smarter every day. And he starts talking to me about stuff he wants to do. And he has all these ambitions. I was like, so what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm just kind of waiting and seeing. I was like, why are you waiting? You're young. Do it now. He's like, well, I just, and I remember being in that same place. I had just got out of college and I started working, and Tara said, why don't you go back to school and get a master's degree at night? She said, won't work kick in on that a little bit? Like, you should do that. And I was like, well, I've been in school for far too long. I just want to, chill right now, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I wish I had started earlier, because I think the side hustle is super important. So I told the guy, I was like, you're telling me you want to learn how to code. Why don't you just start doing it and get a side hustle? Like, a side hustle is awesome. The second conversation I had, I was kind of a jerk to someone today.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I know that's unfathomable for you. But I worked on a crew today that was assembling a grain silo. Like, Trent and I went, and we are just recording it because it's fascinating, right? I don't know a lot about how grain is stored.
Oh, Junior.
And we went and we helped a crew start assembling the silo. And he had some hired help with him. And this one guy, he wasn't doing a lot of work, like, at all. When it came time to get the wrenches out, he would just kind of walk away and start working on his phone. And I was noticing the other crew just wouldn't say anything to him. I was like, what's his deal? They're like, oh, he's new to this. This is the second time he's done this. It's like, well, tell him to come work. They're like, well, I mean, whatever. I said, hey, dude, are your arms broke? He's like, what? I was like, come on, man. This guy's paying you money. Come turn this wrench. And he came over, and then I was just trying to motivate him, because sometimes people just need direction, right? I was like, do me a favor, just make sure we put nuts on all those bolts. And he did. He just needed direction. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, man, what's your deal? What's going on? What's life like? How are things going? We got to that personal place. He led with, well, I dropped out of high school.
How old is he?
22.
Okay.
I said, why? He's like, it just wasn't for me, man. I was like, what the heck, dude? So you got your GED, right? No, didn't do that. Why not? Why didn't you do that? I don't know. I could. I just hadn't. I was like, what? Do it, man. I mean, it could open up so many opportunities for you. And so this is the exact thought I had in that moment. I was like, him moving towards GED requires the same amount of effort as me moving towards something that I want to learn, which in this case is Spanish, which I know you're fluent. I'm not.
I'm not fluent, but I'm not terrible.
You're close. Him making that decision to move towards GED requires the same amount of energy as me enrolling in a Spanish class. There's no difference there. It's just one step to trend in a positive direction. You're making the face like there is a difference.
There is a difference. Your life is full.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, you're right.
Your point is well taken. I'm just...
To better yourself, all it does is take hey, I think I will do this thing that I'm not doing.
Yeah, and that is a choice that you have made repeatedly to the point of having your life brimming over the edges. And I'm guessing if you ask dude what's going on in his life and he led with the narrative of, I dropped out of high school. I mean, that's his narrative. That's his story. That's what he tells people.
That's what he led with, yeah.
I'm guessing that he has plenty of room. Like, I'm guessing there's real estate available to fill with that GED thing. So, yeah, I mean, you can reach a point where you've got so much going on that it's very hard to find time for the next thing. But usually if you're hurting over it, there's room.
Which brings me to another comment that was left in the subreddit.
All right.
I don't even know who said it, but they said sometimes they get the impression that when Matt and Destin see a viewpoint that they don't agree with, that they look down on those people. Did you see that comment?
Really? No, I didn't. That makes me sad.
Yeah, it makes me sad too.
Wow. That stinks. I need to communicate more carefully. That's the last thing I'd want to communicate. There are viewpoints I look down on.
Like what?
Sure, not a problem. I look down on the viewpoint that it's a good idea to kidnap children and move them across international boundaries for the purpose of exploiting them.
Okay, cool.
I'm super against
I think
that.
we can all agree on that.
Yeah, so the point is, like, I don't think all viewpoints are good, but all victimless viewpoints, I'm really patient with.
Oh, here, found it.
I might disagree, but...
Okay, found it. So this is in response to someone that said, don't really know how to make this point without sounding bitter. You remember that comment, right?
I do, yeah.
That was a well-articulated comment. He said, YouTubers self-select for success cases and often include special and unique talents and skills. The vast majority of new channels will fail. The vast majority of people that don't have... And so basically the point they're making is you shouldn't take any advice from Destin because he's different. I think that's the point that they're making.
I think the point that he's making is if you're taking Destin's remarks to mean, well, just go start a YouTube channel and everything will work out, it's nonsense. Like, obviously that dude is smart enough to know that you pursue things that match with what you're into and what you're good at and what you like doing and what turns your... Yeah. It's a common sense pushback. But in fairness to that guy, it's one that we probably didn't cover super well in our conversation. So I get why he brought it up.
Yeah, I thought that was a very well articulated comment, and I totally respect it. And this was the response, and this is what I'd like to hear you just react to. This is from Jimmy Chichi in response to that comment, and I'd love to hear your response to this, Matt. Okay. He says, those were my thoughts, too, listening to this episode. I enjoy NDQ a lot, but I feel like at times they come off as very judgmental of other people's choices. I don't think it's meant in a bad way, but I get the feeling that they look down on people who don't do things like they do. It's strange because a lot of the time Matt does say he doesn't care about the choices people make, but there are times when they talk about being a man if you don't do certain things and you're not one. I don't understand that comment. Maybe I'm reading too much into some things. Either way, I love the show and it makes me think about stuff I don't normally think about. And this has been upvoted 2 other times, so at least 3 people think that.
On the one hand, it makes me sad because that's not what I'm going for, but not like super sad because we're still in internet comment zone and people are okay to say what they want and think what they want.
See that right there? That sounded like you were looking down on people.
That's fair. Yeah, there are things that I just disagree with. Let me just clarify where I'm at with the world of ideas. People are to be respected because they're valuable. I believe, because of just my religion, that people are valuable because they're made in the image of God. So even people I don't like have value and have to be respected and treated well, and shown grace and patience. Ideas are fair freaking game. Ideas should be handled at times even with ruthlessness. Take them apart, put them on the table. If it's a good idea, it'll hold up to scrutiny. If it's not, it won't. Who cares? It's just ideas. They're not people, they're ideas. And so, yeah, there are ideas that I think are awful ideas, just the worst. But if they're victimless ideas, I will have your back in that you should be allowed to think it. You should be allowed to live it out. It doesn't mean I don't like you. I disagree with me from a week ago, and I still like me. So surely I have the capacity to disagree with somebody else over their idea and I still like and respect them. So I guess my reaction would be, dude's part right. Yes, there are ideas that, if you want to use the pejorative, look down on. Yeah, I do. I think they're bad ideas. I have reasons. My reasons could be wrong, and I could be wrong about everything, which is why you got to give people the leash to just be and do whatever they're going to be and do, even if you disagree.
So to clarify your position, you would agree with most of this comment with the exception of, but I get the feeling they look down on people who don't do things like they do.
That's the part I disagree with.
So you would say you get the feeling that they look down on ideas that aren't like what they think or something like that. You would change it to that?
Yeah.
So you're saying it's fair game to look down on other people's ideas?
If you want to use that language, I would phrase it this way. I think it's fair game to think profoundly critically about other people's ideas. And if you're not doing that about your own, then it's hypocritical.
Okay, that got deep. It took me a second. Did you hear the gears meshing in my brain? I was like, Matt's better at words than I am. So
I think it's a fair comment, but I'm going to exercise what I just said. I disagree with parts of it.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to hear what you had to say with that.
And I don't think it makes that person a bad human.
Jimmy Chichi, you can direct your questions to Matt, whatever it is, Matt Whitman TMBH on Twitter.
Thank you. That's fair. That's fair.
So here's one. How do I pre-order a subscription to the History Nugget?
Ooh.
You remember in the last episode where I said, "Hey, do you have all the things?" And I was like,
yeah.
So you got all the things?" And you're like, "Totally got all the things." And I said, "Do you have the subreddit?" And you're like, "No, I don't have that." I was like, "You better go get that before we publish this podcast."
Okay, first of all, that's incredible recall because that's verbatim.
Okay. And then what happened?
Everything worked out and I was vindicated.
You don't have it.
Well,
so
most things worked out and I was partially vindicated.
After the podcast was published, I went to Reddit and when I was re-listening it for the quality check, I was like, you know what? Matt's too busy like in ponds or something on mountains. There's no way he went and got this subreddit.
Experiencing a rich life filled with beauty and wonder.
Like, I know you enough to know you did not do that. And so I went and I was like, sure enough, he didn't do it. So guess who owns the History Nugget subreddit?
Yeah.
Me. I own it.
I think legally I do because you left a clear note to me on there that said that would not be relinquished to me unless I provided you with the manta, which I immediately provided you.
No, I said manatee. You're looking at New Reddit.
I
quickly typed in manta on accident.
It was still there, and so I met the obligation, and I feel like we are square.
I don't have a manta. I'm sitting here looking around my room. I don't see a single manta.
I'm positive I emailed you that.
No, here's the deal. These are my terms. You give me the manatee, you can have that subreddit.
Enjoy the subreddit. Because you can pry that manatee from my cold, dead fingers. It wasn't a thing, but you've made it a thing. And now I'm passionate about this. I'm holding it here in my left hand tightly. I like the way it feels there, and I'm not prepared to part ways with it. So you do whatever you need to do with r/History Nugget, and any shame that brings will no doubt reflect entirely and only on me.
Excellent. I own it.
Cool. We understand each other. I'm not giving you the manatee. Ask for something else, like one of my kids.
Sweet. Speaking of which, it is almost midnight, and they're going to wake up in the morning, so I should go home and go to bed.
Yeah, this has been a late one. Whew. That was fun, man. I've been fascinated about your explosions in the Pacific Ocean story.
Yeah.
It's fun to hear the details.
It was fun to hear what fishing makes you feel like. It was fun. I mean, like, it's genuinely interesting that you have parts of you that you can get in touch with that I can't get in touch with. I don't know. Words. You know what I'm trying to say.
I feel this tiny, like 5% frustration that I cannot use those words well enough to make you feel what I felt. I really want you to feel what I felt, and I just can't impart it to you. And that's tough.